We're in Proverbs chapter 21, beginning in verse 24. This concerns the scoffer. Chapter 21, verse 24. A proud and haughty man, scoffer is his name. He acts with arrogant pride. There's quite a number of verses on the scoffer. The scoffer is not good. The scoffer is, he's described, actually, he or she is described in several ways. Gets shamed for himself. A scoffer seeks wisdom and does not find it. A scoffer does not love the one who corrects him, nor will he go to the wise. He who begets a scoffer does so to his sorrow. Strike a scoffer and the simple will become wary. Judgments are prepared for scoffers. When the scoffer is punished, the simple is made wise. Those are very similar, 19:25 and 21:11. And a proud man, a proud and haughty man, scoffer is his name. And that's where we are this morning. And here is this one who is also described as wise in his own eyes. One that, as we just read, will search for wisdom but is not going to find it. You cannot find wisdom when you really don't want it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Knowing that you need something, but when it is presented to you, I mean, real wisdom is presented, is not going to want it at all. All right, when was the last time you went to a bookstore and looked into places, into like the spiritual section or the religious section, or the how to overcome this or overcome that section? And while some of it may be good, I'm not going to say it's all bad. Most of it is just confusion. Most of it is genuinely bad. Most of it is. And I think it's that trend is only worsening. But the scoffer is not will go to other places for advice, if he goes for advice at all. Never will the scoffer go to God. But here he acts with arrogant pride. There is a major problem with the scoffer. And of course, the scoffer is one who, by name, scoffs. Everything righteous, everything good is a joke, or it's to be demeaned, it's to be mocked. What happened? There in Acts chapter 2, you have a miracle being performed. 12 men in Jerusalem speaking every sort of language. If I'm remembering the number right, it's 14 different language groups that are mentioned there. You have everything from Latin to Arabic to there's just various languages being spoken. All right, what was a response? They were drunk. These men are drunk. All right? Well, that's a scoffer. Instead, as others were doing, what others were doing were wondering, how do these men know these languages? All of a sudden, how do they know this? And there would be some there that not only are they hearing their language, but they're hearing it spoken like most people wouldn't speak it outside of their region, with whatever dialect, with whatever little nuance in language there happens to be, of certain words only to that language and not outside of that language. But you have the scoffers there, those that are mocking. These men are drunk. Well, the fact of the matter is, a drunk usually isn't skillful in his own language, in his first language, much less with suddenly having skills in a wide scope of languages. But that's what a scoffer does. And it is with just complete arrogance that this is done. Just gonna shoot down something that is actually a fulfillment of Joel 2. Joel 2 is being fulfilled right in front of you. And what do? You scoff at it. Well, the same scoffer would scoff at Joel 2. Of course he would. It's going to be meaningless to him. A scoffer is not going to have an appreciation for any of the Word of God. Let's just go ahead and state that. I remember a debate years ago. It was a member of the church against debating an atheist. And the atheist talked about his favorite book in the Bible was the book of Ecclesiastes. He thought that was just a great book, the book of Ecclesiastes. And when it was brought out by the other person, let's talk about the conclusion of the book of Ecclesiastes. Well, then the atheist didn't want to talk about that. All right, no, we're not. No, that's your favorite book in the Bible, but you don't want to talk about the conclusion. You don't want to talk about the conclusion. Well, I have a feeling it's not your favorite book at all. Or one of two things. Either you don't really know the book, or you know what the conclusion is and you don't like the conclusion, which is probably the case. He did not like the conclusion. But here is a scoffer. A scoffer can take anything. A miracle in front of them, can take amazing things in front of them, can take even the Son of God on the cross in front of them and scoff. Never underestimate how far a scoffer will go, or how far someone can take it, because there really is no limit. If you can scoff at miracles being performed in front of you, and this is obviously not a trick. This is obviously miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle being done by people you know who they are. If you can scoff at that, then you can do anything. Now, we go to verse 25. In 25 and 26 do go together. And it goes back up to verse 17. Let's just read that first. He who loves pleasure will be a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not be rich. And we talked about the Epicureans in that. We also talked about that of taking that from a purely materialistic standpoint to that of a spiritual standpoint. Someone who loves pleasure more than anything else is pursuing that more than anything else. There's no restraint, there's no discipline, there's no governor involved in this. It's just luxury and pleasure, and that takes precedence. Well, you're going to be poor spiritually. Be absolutely poor. And but we go to verse 25. The desire of the lazy man kills him, for his hands refuse to labor. So he desires, he dreams, he plans, he puts out these kind of wants, but there's a wall in front of him. And it's his own hands. He won't work. Well, it's himself. He won't work. His hands refuse to labor. All right, if you desire something, well, someone who desires it, truly desires it, will do whatever it takes to get there. If that is the case. Someone who dreams and wants, well, there is a simple way in which this is done. I mean, I'm talking about reasonable dreams. I'm not talking about fanciful things, but reasonable dreams that you work for it. That's what you do. And it's nothing new. And it's nothing unique. It's what everyone has to do. It's what must be done. Now, of course, one's going to point out like heirs of extraordinarily rich people who didn't seem to work for anything, and perhaps they didn't. But that's very, very few and far between with people like that. Most of us do not get that kind of wealth or get that kind of privilege brought in to us, just handed to us, that there must be work involved. There must be. All right, and now it goes that of the lazy man. He's actually, his desires are the very thing that kills him, because he won't do it. Verse 26, he covets greedily all day long, but the righteous gives and does not spare. So we have this continuation, and Uh, we are beginning, well, this is going to be a slow beginning. This obviously as two verses being put together. They do go together, because the he in verse 26 goes back to the lazy man. All right, he covets greedily all day long. Now he covets, he wants, but he's not going to labor for it. He's not going to work for it. So we're in chapter 21 and in verse 26, he covets greedily all day long, but the righteous gives and does not spare. All right, so here is the righteous. The righteous has plenty and then some. And the righteous is giving, the righteous is giving to the poor. Righteous is giving where it is necessary and does not spare. Why? Because the righteous will actually do the labor. The righteous will actually do the work. And yeah, there is what they call sweat equity. There is that involved. There has to be. And we've discussed this before, but there is no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme, except for the person who's trying to do it on you. They're the ones getting rich. They're the ones that's going to get it, and it's dishonest. There is no amazing trick that suddenly you're going to be wealthy and you had to do very little to get it. All right? That just doesn't happen. Or we will just say it's so improbable as to be next to impossible. We will just call it improbable. All right, so you have the lazy man. He desires, he covets, he has greed, but he has nothing. Simply because he's a lazy man. Well, he doesn't have to be that way. He doesn't have to be that way. He can actually get up and do something. And then his life begins to build off of that. What is man's precious possession? We've already seen that particular verse. It's diligence is man's precious possession. Doing what needs to be done and being diligent about it. And that takes discipline. And that takes of this is what I need to do, therefore I will do it. Therefore I will do it. And I know from my own self, I can't say it for everybody. I know for my own self that when I start doing something, and perhaps it was something I didn't even want to do, but if I start doing something, well then I'll continue it. And I'll do it, and it doesn't bother me because now I'm in the motion. Now I'm involved in it, and I can just get that done. Okay, and there is diligence involved in that. Now we come to verse 27, and we have had similar proverbs concerning this. 21:27. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when he brings it with wicked intent? So let's take both parts of this proverb, both phrases, both clauses. First off, the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. Stop. It means what it says. Someone who is just wicked, thinking they're making a sacrifice to God and that it would be pleasing to Him, and somehow it's going to outweigh any wickedness that he's been doing, or somehow God is going to be pleased with that. Well, no, God's not pleased with that. We see that actually repeated in the Old Testament on more than one occasion. Well, I've repeated more than one occasion. That's pretty good. All right, let's go to, actually we need to go to Isaiah chapter 1. Isaiah chapter 1. And We will begin in verse 12. When you come to appear before me, who has required this from your hand to trample my courts? Bring no more futile sacrifices. Incense is an abomination to me. The new moons, the Sabbaths, and the calling of assemblies. I cannot endure iniquity and the sacred meetings. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hates. They are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them. When you spread out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not hear you. And look at this next bit. Your hands are full of blood. And that explains everything he just said. Now he said, I cannot endure iniquity, which also is giving us an idea of what's going on here. But he doesn't want them coming to make the sacrifices, observing the Sabbaths, observing the various feasts. He doesn't want them making the sacrifices if all they're doing is it's just in the motions, and they're committing whatever wickedness they want to commit. All right? Because God does not want to be worshiped by someone who hasn't changed their heart, someone who's just going to remain wicked, someone who's living a double life like the Pharisees were doing, living this double life of, on one side they look like they are the super righteous, on the other side, they are dead men's bones. They are just corrupt. Your hands are full of blood. Don't pray to me. Don't spread out your hands to me. Don't go to any of these feasts. Don't even bother, because it is an abomination to me. So what are they supposed to do? How about clean up your life? And then do the rest like you're supposed to do. Get the wickedness. Stop having your hands full of blood. And of course that would mean murder. That does mean murder. They're murdering somebody. And you have this iniquity that is there. All right, now the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. God does not accept it. All right, someone who's like a drug lord or a mafia don, who's just spreads all sorts of bloodshed. You know, that money that the millions and or billions that person receives, giving it to some kind of religious organization or some kind of charitable thing does not clean their hands of blood. It doesn't. And God does not accept it. He wants obedience. And that's exactly the lesson that Saul was given. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. Has the Lord as great a delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hear than the fat of rams. All right, that's quite a concept. That God is not after masses of sacrifices. He wants obedience. That's what He wants. Now, part of obedience is going to be sacrifices, but He wants your heart. He wants your heart. He doesn't want someone whose heart has grown cold and just doing things because that's expected, doing things because it's always been done, and have this fuzzy, feel-good sort of approach to it all, and thinking that I've done what God has wanted me to do, now I'm off to do the things that I want to do. All right, that doesn't count at all. Now, we come to the next part of this, and the first part, sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when He brings it with wicked intent? That the very intent of it was wicked. So does God judge our intent? You better believe it. He will. He does judge motive, intent. He knows where your heart is, where my heart is. He knows that. He knows it. Now, I can't judge your intent because I can't really know it. Unless you tell it to me, I can't know your intent. I can't do it. And quite often, there are those who, in wanting to destroy someone who's basically a righteous person, wanting to destroy someone, when they can't find any fault with the person, they'll go to the intent, the motive. They didn't do this out of a good heart. They did it for ulterior motives. They did it for something else. You just don't know. You think they did these things because it was good? Nope. They did those things because they could get something out of it, or because they wanted the appearance, and it's just a judging of motives. God can judge the motives, and how much more when He brings it with wicked intent? Well, it's worse. It was an abomination. Bring it with wicked intent, that drops a bit. That goes even further. Now, verse 28, a false witness shall perish, but the man who hears him will speak endlessly. Okay, we have quite a number of proverbs on the false witness. False witness destroys justice, destroys it. All right, if the false witness happens to be on your side, and I mean, let's just say you're the defendant, you got a good friend who's willing to lie for you. All right, that false witness shall perish, and by extension, you too. All right, that false witness will perish. And while you may want to get out of being a defendant, you may want to get out of the punishment, in the process of this false witness, you've not introduced justice whatsoever. You are destroying it. Now, let's put you on the other side. Let's say you are the innocent party. You're not the defendant anymore. You're the innocent party. All right, would you want anyone on the culprit side lying about what being a false witness? Well, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. And someone who is innocent usually doesn't have to stoop to getting false witnesses. Usually doesn't, because the truth is a very powerful thing. And you don't have to do that. Now it'd be a dumb thing to go after false witnesses no matter what, but or try to have a false witness no matter what. But the false witness will perish. Now we come to the next part. But the man who hears him will speak endlessly. What does that even mean? Well, the man who believes the false witness is going to repeat it. Who believes the false witness is going to justify it. Who believes the false witness, now he's not helping justice either. All right, now we will just have to say that the man who hears the false witness may not know it's false. But then again, may not want to hear anything that contradicts it either. But he's going to speak endlessly. Yeah, he's going to repeat it, is what he's going to do. And he's going to try to justify it. No doubt that's what he's going to do. Now, verse 29. A wicked man hardens his face, but as for the upright, he establishes his way. All right, hardens his face. Hardens his face. What does that even mean? We have the term hard-headed. All right, what does hard-headed mean? It means stubborn, won't listen to reason, just going to do what you want to do. Going years ago, I was dealing with a teenage boy who had been convinced to do something that I knew he was going to get hurt. I knew it. It would, the moment he did it, he was going to get hurt. He saw it as a thrill, and I tried to convince him, don't do this, you will get hurt. But he did it anyway. and he got hurt. I mean, you could just set your watch to it. You could set your watch to it. That once he began, it's just a few more seconds, he's going to be on the pavement, and he's going to be, or in gravel, and he's going to be hurt. And yeah, he had to go to the emergency room. And well, that was a hard head or a hardened face. Now, what he did wasn't immoral, it was just dumb. It was unwise to do that. What he did was not immoral. He didn't steal from anybody. He didn't hurt anybody else. He just wouldn't listen to sound advice. Somehow he saw a glory in being able to do this. You can't do it. All right, you can't do it if you understood even. But a wicked man, now this is a wicked man hardens his face. Well, Proverbs 1:7, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. They don't want to be instructed. And I'm not talking about the instruction of mathematics or the instruction of literature or the instruction of some academic subject. I'm not talking about that. Proverbs deals with wisdom and the teaching and the learning of wisdom. That's what the fool does not want. There's plenty of fools who have PhDs. They've learned a lot of stuff. They've written a lot of stuff and taught a lot of stuff. But still, their foolish hearts were darkened. And you have this, a wicked man hardens his face. Let's just go to Romans chapter 1 and look at some things. Romans 1. And here is a people, an entire people. It's the Gentile world. And specifically, I think it's discussing the Roman world of that day. But we just begin in verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. All right, so what did we just read? The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. It's there for them to know it. And as we have read from the book of Proverbs, wisdom calls out in the streets, in the concourses, in the city gates. She sends out her maidens to do the same thing. Wisdom shown as personified as a woman calls out. Now here, Romans 1 in verse 18 is saying the same thing, just not making it so poetic. The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. They don't want that truth. It's there. They don't want it. Because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. They've seen it. But the fool hates knowledge, the fool hates wisdom, the fool hates instruction. Doesn't want it. Because what goes with God is obedience to Him. If you don't want obedience to God, you just dismiss Him. All right, in this case, they suppressed that truth. For since the creation, verse 20, for since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even His eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Not my words, that's the words of Romans 1 and verse 20. They are without excuse. No one can stand before Christ and say, "Sir, how did you hide yourself so well?" He didn't hide at all. Everything. You have people who can solve all kinds of problems. People who can see something has been done by somebody and being able to figure out who the perpetrator was, can figure out who it was that did certain things. They can do it. And yet see all of creation and never think anybody could have possibly done it. Everything just fits so incredibly well. Everything seems like it was made for mankind. Everything about it just has that appearance, because it is. It is entirely made for mankind. And what do some of them call it? Some of the scientists call it the Goldilocks the Goldilocks concept, or I forgot what it was called, where everything is just right. Everything about the universe is just right. Everything about the galaxies, about planets, about everything on this earth is just right. Like Goldilocks finding everything just, well, you're looking for the just right, and she found it. All right, we got it. We have it here. Verse 21, because although they knew God, they did not glorify Him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools. And their faces are hardened and become harder and harder and harder. And we see it, verse 23, they don't become some sort of enlightened atheists. There is no such thing. They don't become, it's not like, okay, we graduated from God, now we're on to lifting ourselves up by humanism. There is none of that. You don't. You take God out, you fall. And you fall hard. And change, verse 23, and change the glory of the incorruptible God into the image made like corruptible man, and birds, and four-footed animals, and creeping things. What did they get? What's this? It's known as paganism. It is worshiping every sort of thing, whether you made it or didn't make it. Whether it's a statue you made out of stone, or a crude one you made out of clay, or just a stack of rocks, or just a rock. All right, they are worshiping those things. And verse 24, therefore God also gave them up to uncleanness and the lust of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves. He did not make them do that. That's where this heads. He gave them up to it. It's like, okay, you're on your own. This is where you're going. This is the seed you're sowing, and here's what's growing. This is where it heads. This is the direct result of this sort of life. And we come back to, and we could go further in Romans chapter 1, but let's come back to Proverbs 21:29. A wicked man hardens his face. Now, every now and then we talk about the prodigal son. Prodigal son leaves home, takes everything that his father gives him, which would have been what he would have received at his father's death. His father was still alive and gave it to him. He goes off to a distant country, and there he lives a wasteful life. That's what he does. He lives a wasteful life. And it's when he's starving, because there is a famine in the land, that wherever he was, he's now starving. He's got to get himself a job. His job is feeding pigs, and the pigs aren't hungry, but he is. And he comes to his senses. He's no longer hardened his face. He comes to his senses, and he realizes everybody back at home had food and to spare. Everybody back, no one is begging for bread over there, and here I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. Nobody is begging for bread. And so he goes back is what he does. But we personally know those, and there are examples, quite a number of examples, of those who may have learned a little something, such as Saul, the first king of Israel, Saul of Benjamin, the son of Kish, that he could say on occasion, I think he meant it, I have played the fool. and yet go right back to it. Did you learn anything? Well, enough to say something for the moment, but anything that's permanent, no. It didn't stick. And there were times, there was at least one time where Saul would have killed Jonathan, the very one he wanted on the throne after his own death. He wanted to kill David because David was the next king and it wouldn't be Jonathan, but he's willing to kill Jonathan because Jonathan is friends with David. All right, well, that's a madman. And the wicked man hardens his face. Now we come to the next part of that. But as for the upright, he establishes his way. It's righteousness that establishes us. It's right living that does it. It builds, it protects. I have not seen anyone who was truly righteous, who was in fact righteous, where everything they did, every righteous act they did had a nasty consequence to it. And it affected them physically, it affected them in every sort of way, financially, every sort of way. I have never seen that because it doesn't happen. We've mentioned this before as well, that there is no law of nature. There's no law in nature that will harm you for doing what is right. Never. It's not going to do it. There is no consequence in nature for doing the right thing. Doing the wrong thing, yes. Doing the right thing, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. So, as for the upright, he establishes his way. Yeah, he's going to be protected. He's going to be established. He can be built up. But wickedness, let's just make a comparison between a healthy tree and a tree that's full of rot. All right, the tree that's rotten, that's going to fall. A tree that's healthy is going to continue to grow. Now we come to verse 30. And this actually goes very well with what we were just saying in verse 29. There is no wisdom or understanding or counsel against the Lord. Very, very simply put, wisdom belongs to God. All laws are from God. There is laws of nature, laws of morality, everything about that. There is no wisdom or understanding or counsel against the Lord. To say that that God is flawed in any way, that God has a moral problem in any way. If you think there is, if you think that God is somehow wicked, if God is somehow flawed, might I introduce to you a concept? And the concept is, if that's the case, we all have a problem. And I don't mean just Christians. I mean everybody on earth, everyone who's ever existed has a major problem, and there'd be nothing we can do about it. Because it would mean that God, if God is flawed, where's going to be justice? It's not going to be there. Where is going to be any kind of righteous law? It's not going to be there. And God would be one that truly would not care if we were right or wrong or anything else. Okay? So, there is no wisdom or understanding or counsel against the Lord. Now, we see from Isaiah 6 in verse 3 and also Revelation 4 in verse 8, this notion of absolute purity. Holy, holy, holy. That expresses absolute and complete purity. A holiness that you cannot see on this earth except by the words of God and expressed there. A goodness that there is nothing wrong. As someone who takes bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, night for day and day for night, light for darkness and darkness for light. Someone who switched everything upside down and backwards. Well, that person has a serious problem. Because what was good is now evil, and what was evil is now good. All right, well, I can't think of anything more satanic than that. I can't think of anything more satanic. God brings out what is good in everyone who follows Him. Psalm 51:4, that you may be found just when you speak and blameless when you judge. That is God. He is blameless. He is just. And there is no wisdom that negates God. And there is no point of where, as we put earlier, you graduate from God. There is no point where you say, well, I'm smarter than that now. Or that somehow we have lifted ourselves up to a more enlightened man. You haven't. You have fallen to a debased mind is what you've fallen to. Or if you haven't, you go in there pretty quick. Now, we come to verse 31. 21, verse 31. The horse is prepared for the day of battle, and deliverance is of the Lord. All right. You can prepare everything for battle. Do all the calculations. Get all the arms and armaments and prepare everybody, prepare every soldier, get everything right, all the logistics, everything that needs to be done, everything in order, but the battle still belongs to the Lord. The battle still does. And while we may see where battles have been lost, but the war won in the end, well, that's all in the providence of God. That's all the things that are going to occur. That there is deliverance. Deliverance is of the Lord. Samuel 17 in verse 47, that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle belongs to Jehovah. Jehovah owns this. And whatever happens, He has overseen it. Whatever happens, He is there. And prepare all you like, but it is God who brings deliverance out of it. Prepare all you want, but it is God who is doing it. God who's going to bring about that. Wickedness can have a little bit of victories, not over God, never over God. God's never lost a battle. But the wickedness, showing their wickedness, allowed to fill up their cup of indignation, allowed to fill up their cup of wickedness, and there comes a point when it's gone. It's over. And everything that they had worked for, everything that they had built themselves up on with their arrogance and the pride, like the scoffer, is absolutely over. It's gone. Speaking of over, we have run out of time, so thank everybody for being with us, and hopefully we will continue next week. Thank you.